Just in case you didn't get that. Oh, hell no. Why? I hate that. Why is like predictive text on computers automatically assuming that I'm talking about one of my Facebook friends? I like accidentally will tag people and shit just trying to like articulate myself. That's so stupid. And where did I know? I should have essentially done this, sooner. Okay. Here we go. Okay. No. Fucking. Oh my god. I hate technology. I do. Okay. So go there to watch it. I don't know how easy it is to just be a guest on this, but I guess they're going to figure it out because I actually made an account. So, anyway. Occult associations with ancient religions and symbology. So in particular, obviously today is Easter. So just in case anybody is curious, why Easter always creeps up on me because it's never on a specific date, and it's because it actually has to do with a specific celestial configuration as to why it's always on different days. So back in ancient times, we didn't really worry about like actual dates per se as much. That was something that kind of evolved over time with using the moon and the sun as a calendar, right? Or like a clock. That's where the sundial kind of phenomenon comes from. So essentially obviously the orbit of the sun and the phases of the moon were crucial with them tracking time because that's all they had. So Easter actually is associated with a couple different things. It's obviously associated with the resurrection of Jesus, or similar deities of that nature. And then it's also everybody gets eggs and stuff, and everybody always wonders what the hell do the eggs have to do with Jesus? They don't actually. It's an overlapping of two adopted mythologies and like religious dogma that just people collectively as a society have created some sort of superficial, hollow representation of those things. So let's go ahead and reference the Jesus thing first and get that out of the way. So Jesus is essentially supposed to be the Son of God. God, essentially, from an ancient perspective, is supposed to be Zeus or Jupiter, right? The god of gods. So he's supposed to be the origin of it. And obviously, depending on the age that you talk to and or you're referencing, and the different cultures that you're referencing as well, some of them would say that Saturn's actually God instead of Jupiter. And that's more of like the Old Testament God for Saturn. That's why he's a little bit more harsh than Jupiter per se. But anyway, so in ancient astrology too, Jupiter is associated with Pisces as well as Sagittarius. So it makes sense how the dual nature of Jesus representing Jupiter, or if you're looking from more of a Greek origin kind of thing with the polytheism, then Jupiter would essentially be the father. And so Helios, which is the name of the sun, translates actually to Jesus, essentially. So the Son of God will, and the way that our seasons go, we have equinoxes and solstices. So the winter solstice is obviously on the 21st of December every year, and that's supposed to signify when, if you were to actually like track the coordinates in the sky with the ecliptic, like basically the big cosmic ruler that goes around the entire our entire panoramic view of the Earth, where you can tell where different constellations and stuff are in the sky. If you're an astronomy fan, you know what I'm talking about. So there's something called the crux, which is an actual constellation that looks like a cross. And during the winter solstice, which in ancient cultures, that would signify basically that they're going to have to basically conserve their harvest, because it's going to be winter and there's not going to be any agriculture. And obviously, with not having many modern amenities per se to artificially, sustain themselves with supplies or whatever, like we do today, they had to fight the ruthless facets of the environment and nature. And that was kind of important for them to know when the sun would no longer be giving them substantial amounts of light to essentially, you know, make the crops grow. So when the sun essentially would line up with that crux on the 21st, the sun is essentially supposed to rise a couple degrees throughout its cycle throughout the year, right? And on the 21st, it actually stops rising, and it's right on that cross. So it's as if the sun, because if you assume the movement with life, like the ancient Egyptians did with Ra and Horus, you know, rising, if the sun was essentially not moving anymore, like having any kind of degrees going upward, then that would translate to some people that it might be dead or sick or something, right? So think about Jesus, Helios, the sun, being pinned up on a cross, and then he's left there for 3 days. So the 3 days comes into account on the 25th of December, which is Christmas, right? That's when the sun actually starts to rise another degree again. And that's supposed to be essentially the sun resurrecting and having life again. And all the, you know, cultures would be looking for that and then go, oh my God, that means that the sun's actually going to come out and give us the spring equinox again, so we're going to have harvest and we're not going to die and have apocalyptic ice, you know, I was going to say iceberg, ice age kind of things where everybody's going to die and there's going to be massive amounts of famine, because obviously that's happened, and throughout history and synchronicity, that'll be a thing that'll happen yet again. But so that's the association with obviously Jesus to the sun, right? And so because although yes, the sun does go up a couple degrees in December, it doesn't make sense to cultures throughout, you know, time as these kind of concepts were passed down and adopted, that the sun's actually giving more life, because on the 25th of December, it gets freaking cold. Like the dead of winter is like in the middle of January. So that wouldn't make sense. So there were later cultures that adopted that, that the sun resurrected on Easter, because that's essentially actually when it does, signifying that it's going to actually be out long enough to, you know, do the photosynthesis and synthesize the crops, and therefore have plants life grow. And that's when, you know, spring, like a new burst of spring. That's when, you know, like all the wildlife and stuff seem to be having little wildlife, you know, critters of their own, and vice versa. And spring fever, humping like rabbits, that thing. So that's attributed more or less to some of the polytheistic kind of religions, where they didn't emphasize so much on Jesus's crucifixion and stuff. So obviously the crucifixion of Jesus per se is a personification of Christianity, and there are similar stories to, you know, basically sacrificing something, or sacrificing the sun for the good of the world. Really, every time I'm doing a video. Hello? I'm actually talking live on my computer right now to a bunch of people. Okay, I'll go down and take care of it in a minute. Okay. Alright. Really? Be right back, guys. Hold tight. I apparently have to go brace hell downstairs. See, this is actually partially why I don't do live stuff, because nobody can leave me the fuck alone for 5 minutes. I'm sorry that I'm cussing. I don't care. Whatever. But anyway, so let's keep going on. So now we're gonna move on to the the rabbits and the chocolate eggs and stuff like that. So in particular, with astrology, so Easter is essentially designated to the first Sunday. So I've talked about the lords of the days. So the sun obviously is ruled by Sunday, and moon is represented by Moon Day, and Tuesday is represented by Mars Day, Wednesday is Hermes or Mercury Day, and Thursday is Jupiter Thor's Day, and Friday is Venus Day or Aphrodite's Day, sorry. And then Saturday is Saturn's Day. And so Easter always falls on a Sunday because it has to do with the sun resurrecting and basically bringing the spring equinox, so there's more life. And so it has to follow the first full moon after the spring equinox. So I know that sounds really confusing. So in spring, we have the spring equinox, just like we have the solstices, right? That's supposed to signify when the sun's supposed to rise again. But the actual celebration of it is on the Sunday that follows after there's a full moon. So there was a full moon just this last Monday, in Libra in particular. And so since it was on Monday, the next Sunday, which is today, would be the day that we have Easter. And that's why Easter always creeps up on me, and it's never on the same freaking day. And the fact that I don't work in retail anymore, I actually don't know when Easter is anymore. I just walk in and I'm like, holy crap, there's baskets everywhere. That means it's Easter soon. But anyway, so the spring equinox is supposed to be a symbolism for life, or the tree of life. And it's supposed to obviously represent people being able to plant agriculture. So I was kind of just sketching this out here. So you see the moon right here. The moon is supposed to be associated with the south node, and it's supposed to be like a curved horseshoe, right? It's supposed to be, it would represent like a symbolic drawing of the womb, and it's also looks similar to a seed, right? And if you're thinking of, like, if there was, of course I don't have a pin that works, right? Here we go. If you were looking at like ground right here, right? Am I in the right spot? There we go. So the south node would essentially be the seed that's underneath, and then the north node would be above the ground. So you notice that this is the seed here. Of course it doesn't work. There you go. The seed, and then, I'm dyslexic, sorry. And then this is the plant, right? So this is the soul, and this is the life, because the plant is life. So that's how that works with that. And also, fascinating enough with the whole womb thing, and also the south node thing looking obviously like an egg, kind of. It represents the egg in the womb, which is the one that's associated with the moon, the triple moon goddess, Mother Earth, that sort of thing. And then the sun, in particular, the north node kind of drawing, if you draw it like this, and then you put like an end on it, and you put a little tail on it, it actually looks like a sperm, right? So it's the actual contribution of life. And then I had one of my favorite books that's the Secret Signs of Symbols. And I actually just am going to reference something right out of the book, so I'll show you here. So it's the symbol of the snake and the egg. Woo! I thought I stepped on my cat. My bad. I didn't. But anyway, the reason why the snake is associated with that is because Saturn, again, is associated with Satan and the devil. And in ancient culture, Saturn was actually translated to them as being God. So them impregnating, more or less, the egg was supposed to be the manifestation of soul, basically being infused into life. So it says the egg is powerful in itself with symbolism, as it is the potent of life force. The world egg is essentially which the universe has said to hatch, referenced by the Celts, Hindus, Egyptians, Greeks, and it's often attributed to the cosmic hatching takes place in very below. Often the egg rises from primordial waters and incubated by a bird, and that's where like the stork and stuff comes from, with bringing the babies. And then it says the egg is a symbol of new life, and this idea is born out out with chocolate eggs at Easter, which in itself is a celebration of pre-Christian fertility goddess known as Esther. So that's spelled Eostre. So Istar also, as well as Lilith. The origins of Lilith from Babylonian folklore is attributed to fertility goddess as well. Because Lilith, although she's supposed to be the first wife of Adam, and she essentially more or less becomes, the queen of demons, she's supposed to be the most beautiful thing that anyone has ever seen. So like Sleeping Beauty, as well as any of like those fairy tale stories of the princess guarded in the castle kind of thing with the dragon. The dragon's supposed to represent the devil or Satan, Saturn, protecting the Lilith, which would be, if you reference some of the manuscripts I've talked about, I have a video on that on my YouTube channel about the origins of Adam and Eve, how she decides to, basically take off. Can you tell me about Easter? I know. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually talking about it right now. So Easter essentially is supposed to be a representation of the spring equinox and us having basically potential for agriculture. And it's associated with the fertility goddesses of Babylonia. And then it's also associated with the resurrection of Helios, the sun, or quote-unquote Jesus. But there were no one here. Yeah. It's because I actually have some people that are watching this simultaneously on YouTube Live. That's why. But I'm actually continuing to go on about that. So the egg is a symbol of new life, and this idea is born out of the chocolate eggs for Easter, which in itself is a celebration of pre-Christian fertility goddess. It also gives the name hormone estrogen. The subsequent celebration of Christ's death and resurrection meant that the egg kept its significance as a symbol of new life and hope. And it says, alchemy, the philosopher's egg symbolizes the seed of spiritual life and depicts a place wherein a great transformation takes place. So that was actually me referencing some of the spiritualism and esoteric associations, with the eggs actually representing the potential soul, and the moon being the feminine goddess, and then obviously the sun, them infusing together, which is the yin and yang actually, is what creates life. So the moon is supposed to represent your soul, and essentially a soul is eternal, and it's always there with or without the sun, essentially. And it's supposed to symbolize intuition and some sort of unconscious or karmatic kind of eternal knowledge. And that's usually where people get the intuition from, and that's where actually the deity from ancient Egypt with Thoth comes from. Thoth was supposed to be known as the deity, or the god of knowledge, and that is attributed often to the moon as well. But I think, just for the sake of it, because I'm pretty sure I referenced another book. So this is one more book I have. It's the Occult Source Book of Esoteric Wisdom. It's kind of like an intro book, but I mean, it's got some good things in it. So this is emphasizing on the yin and yang thing. So I highlighted that it says, a cosmic harmony that polarities of the yin and yang, the dark passive female force, and the light active masculine force are in perfect balance. The small circle contained within each half represents the seed of the other, demonstrating that their interdependence. Meaning that obviously, like the riddle with the what came first, the chicken or the egg, obviously they both need to be in play, and that's kind of an irrelevant, mean riddle to joke about with people. And then I have a couple of other references too to fertility goddesses. So referencing ritual magic with the Gregorians, there's the lunar daughter emphasized by means of the night owl, a predator bat, or a nightmare. Many powerful and unpredictable goddesses, she was simultaneously a goddess of fertility, witchcraft, and death. So that again kind of reemphasizes on the concept of Lilith, Adam's first wife, when she decided to rebel against him and then basically cast herself out of Eden, and she decided to basically commit her loyalty or whatever to the sapient angel that essentially was Satan, the serpent. And then it says, the daughter who was the goddess of nature and the moon, like Diana, She was pure and virginal, and she also had an unpredictable side to her nature, and sometimes she depicted, there was depictions of, with snakes for hair. So that is a reference to Medusa. And then we have from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the lessons of Persephone and Demetri symbolize the corn and the Mother Earth, respectively. Initiating, we're told that the legends of Persephone's abduction into the underworld at the hands of Hades. Demetrius, her mother and the goddess of harvest, sat in mourning, and the crops failed. So it's supposed to represent the winter solstice and the death of the sun, because in Egyptian theology, Thoth was essentially more or less associated with the moon, and one of the daughters of Jupiter, which would be a facet of the masculine kind of representation with the ethers, would be the one that brings life. So the fact that she was gone in the underworld is supposed to signify when we're going through the Capricorn season, which is the dead of winter, and there's no crops. And so it says, so Zeus sent Hermes to the underworld to give Persephone the seed of life, a pomegranate. This allowed Persephone to spend half of her time in the world of the living, so that would be from spring to winter, and but the other half, she was obliged to continue to be queen of the underworld. And that's also some of the religious origins with why, specifically like in Islam, why they attribute women in particular as being associated with demonic origin. Not just because of the Lilith thing, but because of this in particular. And the Greeks were thus instructed that life comes out of death and rebirth is a natural order of things, because that was an accepted concept in ancient cultures and a religious dogma that reincarnation was a thing, and that was kind of just actually removed in the English translations or the modern translations of the Bible back in like 1550 something, actually. Funny enough. Modern magic regards to the tree of life diagram as a symbol of the mind and its potential. In most people, this potential is unrealized, so that energies of the psyche are largely unconscious. The underworld thus becomes an excellent symbol for the unconscious thought of process of humans. That's also in astrology why Pluto not only represents Hades or the underworld, right? But it represents the psychological dynamic of somebody's mind and their psychological defenses and just their perception in general. That's also why psychology and astrology not only overlap, but astrology more or less is the ancient occult arts of the social science of psychology today. Let's see. The underworld thus becomes oh yeah, I already read that. And then it says, it is interesting to note that the first path on the tree of life, that is of the 23rd in Terra, dancing in a wreath of wheat. And then it says, its cosmic incorporated a trinity consists of the primordial fire, the great mother, and their daughter. Yep, and I already read that part. I think that's the gist of it. And I'm actually done now, so if anybody has any questions, I can answer questions or whatever, in particular. If not, then I'm going to go. And unfortunately, if you actually do want to catch all of this, my YouTube channel, which is just go to YouTube and look up Ray Reinhardt's Astrologer, or you can just Google it because it'll take you right to it, and you can watch this. I'll relabel this the Esoteric Origins of Easter on there. So if you'd like to see that, ideally, I kind of expect people to not really catch the live things. I just give the opportunity for people to talk about it if they'd like or ask questions. But pretty much this is just a short, quick way for me to broadcast some of my lectures onto YouTube. So again, if you're interested in any kind of astrology lectures or astrotheology or kind of mythology and folklore and occult stuff, definitely go check out my YouTube channel and subscribe, and you'll get updates of when I post things. I don't post things like on a consistent schedule, so the best thing to do is to subscribe so you get notified for when I upload videos, because I'll go through tangents where I'll make 20 videos in one day, or I'll like not make one for a month. So yeah. All right. Thank you for being here. Socrates. That's a cool name. I like Socrates. And Amber, I guess. Sorry you cut at the end, but thanks guys, and I guess stay tuned for my next thing. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Yeah.